My advice to an entrepreneur is you've got a business, think of your business with a P&L and then your balance sheet. If your balance sheet has money, if you have money on the balance sheet and you're investing it in treasury bills, you're generating 3% after tax, but the cost of capital is 12%. So you're losing 9 to 10% of your treasury every year in shareholder value. So you've just jacked into a parasitic system, which is sucking the life out of you. You're being bled to death. And the simple fix there is flip the treasury asset from one that's dilutive 10% a year to the one that's accretive 10% a year. If Bitcoin goes up 24% a year and the cost of capital is 12, right, then you're doubling your treasury every 3 years instead of cutting your treasury in half, right? That's a very simple thing, but that doesn't change how you run the P&L. What you did is you plugged into a technology platform to make you more powerful, to basically preserve or increase your capital. On the P&L, the answer is you plug into a technology platform that makes your product or your service more powerful. So it depends on what your product and service is, but it's simple. If you're a podcaster, right, you think about where are the eyeballs and what is the format. You could create an audio-only format, or you could create video and audio. And if you create video and audio, then you make the best quality video and audio you can, which means that you get on a plane, you've traveled to the person you want to interview, and you set up the cameras. And if the light's bad, fix the light, create the product, right? So you create the right product, then you put it on the right channel, and there you focus upon building that viewership. So if you spread yourself too thin and you kind of create a product which is inferior for 10 different channels, then maybe that's not as good as creating an awesome product for 1 or 2 or whatever channels. Obviously, if you want to go on TikTok, you create TikTok content. You take this, you splice it into 15, 30-second TikTok videos and you run it. If you want to run an Instagram, you create real content. On YouTube, it's smart to make sure make it YouTube friendly. Put in the timestamps, put in the description. Some people are stupid, right? They'll post a podcast video and they'll not enable comments, and then they'll put the wrong header in it, and they have a famous name and a famous topic. You wouldn't say we interviewed a dude about the problems in the economy. You would say we interviewed Michael Saylor about Bitcoin, because my name trends and the economy
really
trends.
Smart. Really smart when it comes. Most people have no idea about YouTube. Just the fact that you said that, you're beyond almost everyone else that we've interviewed.
You're just focusing on creating a great product, and you're asking the question, like you're saying, how do we use AI? Right? How do I use AI to create a better show? When this thing comes out, it'll be in English. You can actually translate it to Spanish and Portuguese, and maybe you capture the Spanish and the Portuguese market if you actually have content and, or Korean or Japan. So if I was a podcaster, I'd be thinking hard about the channel and the platform. I'd be thinking hard about creating content that's global. I'd be thinking hard about how I format it in the right form factor that drives the maximum engagement, the maximum likes, right? All of those things. And of course, every year the technology shift, right? Like is Alibaba or TikTok coming and going? Is Alibaba coming and going? And then not even just AI, but if you do an AI and it translates garbage, and there's another AI that'll actually create a good Spanish language translation, then obviously find the right one. And I would say probably in this era, you got to allocate 10, 20% of your time to just considering the changes in the technology landscape. Can an AI drive your car? Do you sell cars? Can you put AI on your robot? Can you build a robot? Will a robot build will someone create what you're creating?
Yeah.
Right. And so there's a defensive, there's an offensive, and then you're reinventing yourself. But the model I've always had, and I had one of these fossils on my wall my office for a while. It's a chambered nautilus. And a chambered nautilus represents a really good model for entrepreneurial growth in business because it's a creature, a mollusk that, lives deep down and under high pressure, and it creates a shell. And then it's growing, and as it's growing, it's creating a geometrically larger shell, but it's creating it by turning in on itself. So it's always using its previous work as the foundation for its next work, which is twice as much. So it's like, it's the Fibonacci sequence. It's a 1 and a 2 and a 4, or sorry, I'm going to get this wrong. It's not that, but you understand what I'm saying,
I do.
Which is it's going to spiral out like this. And when you look at the creature, what you say is that is nature's solution to growth under pressure or disciplined growth, because it's always building on its past asset, its past foundation. It's not just, I've got this and I reach over here. This gets snapped off under pressure, right? Whereas this spiral or chambered nautilus, that actually has integrity under pressure. That doesn't get crushed by the weight. And in your business, if you're taking an asset, like for example, maybe you've got a body of content, good podcast, but you've never been in the Brazilian market, and you figure out how to translate everything to Portuguese. But, you try that in the Brazilian market, do you want to go learn Portuguese and then just restart, or work twice as hard interviewing Portuguese people for the Portuguese market in Portuguese and interviewing English speakers for the English market? And you're like, well, you can see how that becomes too many balls and you drop the balls. And pretty soon you're not using technology to do something 1,000 times cheaper or 1,000 times better. You're just trying to do twice as much. And growth that relies upon you working twice as hard isn't sustainable. You need to find a way to use your assets, but be the first person to a new platform with these assets. If you hypothetically, for example, if you could create an AI that would look at your podcast and automatically generate 27 short reels that run on TikTok and Instagram that then that pulled the most exciting things said and then dragged people in 37 languages to 37 full podcasts. And that was all done in the 30 minutes after you finished each podcast by the AI. That's pretty good. Sometimes I think I'll get on Twitter and I'll say something, I'll do stuff and it'll run 500,000 video views, and I can accomplish more in 5 minutes than if I had a marketing team of 40 people and a $20 million a year budget.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would say sometimes if I gave you a $40 million a year budget and 40 or 50 people and 10 lawyers, they would all come together to tell you can't do anything. Yeah. You get less done by trying to do things the conventional way than the new way. So I think with entrepreneurs on the P&L, you're just always looking for how you harness platforms. And the two most powerful ideas right now this year, digital money, digital intelligence, right? Those are breaking, right? Digital intelligence is AI. It really wasn't commercial 2 years ago. We're like in year 1, year 2 of a 10-year run. And magical things will happen that were written about in science fiction books 50 years ago. But, the way science works and S-curves work is people will talk about doing things for 100 years and they'll never do it. And then the year before it becomes feasible, people will think it isn't, but then it will be. And all of a sudden you're on an S-curve and the entire world changes over the next 10, 20 years. The automobile, the airplane, et cetera. And so right now we're at the beginning of a massive S-curve in digital intelligence. And the same is true with money. So if you were trying to do things a conventional way on your balance sheet or a conventional way with your P&L, this is a good time for you to rethink that, because either it will make you 10 times or 100 times more successful, or it'll keep you from being torn apart by the challenger that uses that technology while you're still trying to create studio movies the old-fashioned way with 1,000 unionized workers, and there's a dude with one other person in a computer that spits out the entire series. And like
Godzilla is a good example of that.
scary, right?
Yeah.